Action News Network is an Aboriginal American media network. As such, we are protected under the United Nations Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous People, or DRIP, Articles 8, 14, and 16. Action News Network is allowed to provide Aboriginal news and media content on non-Indigenous media platforms free of oppressive censorship. Any breach of this protection is a breach of international law.
I'm top notch, nigga, you the bottom tier. If I tear the tear drops, you be the bottom tier. Yeah, I hate to be blunt. Elephant in the room, no room, chuck in the front.
I sit here as the great-grandson of a former slave, Mary Brown, who was freed by the Emancipation Proclamation on January 1st, 1863. I had the fortune of meeting her as a small child. This hearing is yet another important step in the long and heroic struggle of African Americans to secure reparations for the damages inflicted by enslavement and post-emancipation and racial exclusionary policies.
I am not here in anger or anguish. I am not in any way seeking to encourage hostilities. There are diverse opinions in this room, and I understand it, appreciate it, respect it, admire it, and love it. I'm a product of my history. I am clearly a child that has walked this path. No, I did not pick cotton. But I will say that those who picked cotton created the very basic wealth of this nation. For cotton was king. There was no other product.
Yesterday, when asked about reparations, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell offered a familiar reply. America should not be held liable for something that happened 150 years ago, since none of us currently alive are responsible. Enslavement reigned for 250 years on these shores. When it ended, this country could have extended its hallowed principles, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness to all regardless of color. But America had other principles in mind. And so for a century after the Civil War, black people were subjected to a relentless campaign of terror. A campaign that extended well into the lifetime of Majority Leader McConnell. We grant that Mr. McConnell was not alive for Appomattox, but he was alive for the electrocution of George Stinney. He was alive for the blinding of Isaac Woodward. What this committee must know is that while emancipation deadbolted the door against the bandits of America, Jim Crow wedged the windows wide open. And that is the thing about Senator McConnell's something. It was 150 years ago, and it was right now.
Black people don't need another apology. We need safer neighborhoods and better schools. We need a less punitive criminal justice system. We need affordable health care. And none of these things can be achieved through reparations for slavery. For all these reasons, Bill H.R. 40 is a moral and political mistake. Thank you.
I feel a sense of anger where we are in the United States of America, where we have not had direct conversations about a lot of the root causes of the inequities and the pain and the hurt manifested in economic disparities, manifested in health disparities, manifested in a criminal justice system that is indeed a form of new Jim Crow. And so we as a nation have not yet truly acknowledged and grappled with racism and white supremacy that has tainted this country's founding and continues to persist in those deep racial disparities and inequalities today.
We're gonna look at the Daily Beast. Now, Laura Ingraham, the witch that she is, that's one woman I wouldn't want to wake up to every fucking day and shit like that. She basically, but I give her props though. I always give props to white people when they say what's on their fucking mind and tell the truth. All right, but it don't make your case look better. All right, so even though this seems harsh, I love it because we're going to charge this to the file. And we're going to show everybody how these people feel about us. All right? Lloyd Ingram dismisses no reparations, no do-overs. We won, you lost. That's it. All right? So what happens if they told the Jews that during the Holocaust that Hitler won, you know what I'm saying, y'all lost, get over it. Nobody does that though, right? So, you know, the fact that they do it to us is kind of crazy, you know? And again, here's that beautiful woman. Excuse me, I almost fucking threw up and shit. But yeah, all right, the devil herself. Fox News star Laura Ingraham waded into ongoing debate over reparations for descendants of slaves during her podcast on Thursday by proclaiming there are no do-overs after a conquest. So they are admitting that we were conquered. But wait a minute, I thought we was African slaves that were sold into slavery by our own people and shit. So how did you conquest us if you bought us from kings and the homie and all this shit? All right. So according to Lord Ingram, we were conquered. Well, we would have to be on our own land and taken over and subjugated our own land to be conquered. All right. There's a difference between conquesting somebody, you know, which is the act of taking over someone's land and subjugating them on it, than to enslave them and bring them to somewhere else. That's just, you know, theft. Human theft. We call it human trafficking. All right. Talking to Kentucky State professor and hate crime hoax author Wilfred Riley about the recent House hearing on reparations, Ingram played a clip of author ta-nehisi Coates. You gotta stop with these fucking fake ass arrogant names, all right? It's just making y'all look stupid as fuck. Taking Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell to task, which you didn't, for saying reparations are unnecessary because Americans elected Barack Obama as president. Barack Obama is African and white. He is not an American Aboriginal. He is not a black American, and he told us this many fucking times. So how did we win by electing someone who is not of our people just because he looks like us and sings fucking Marvin Gaye songs? After praising McConnell's remarks, Riley stated that the logistics of paying reparations would be too far and difficult before wondering if Native Americans would then be next to request compensation over their treatment. No, reparations is going to the real American Indians. Native Americans are white people trying to pretend to be fucking us. Not to mention mixing that in with the Mongols, their cousins who invaded us from the other side and shit and got their ass, you know, subjugated and teamed up with them. But that's a different fucking story. I mean, obviously, both white and black soldiers frankly took over this country from Indians, the first people. And they stay trying to like fucking put us together. But what you didn't really know is that, you know, the black Indians and the Mongol Indians were already warring each other. So it wasn't much for, you know, to get us to fucking go over there and kick their asses for a second fucking time. Even though, you know, this is why people don't respect us, because we kind of did the shit to ourselves. People would argue that the whole world, and I would, the whole world has been reshaped by people taking other people's lands. You know, Ingram weighed in. It's called conquest. So, like, all right, Lord Ingram, if I come in your crib, yo, hog tie you, shoot your fucking husband, you know what I'm saying, and fucking, you know, and this is all just hypothetically, you know, I'm not calling for this, and I'm definitely ain't fucking doing this. So, YouTube, fuck off, all right? But hypothetically, if I did that shit to you or whatever, and enslaved you, you know, forced you to have my kids and shit and crap, can you call the police after being subjugated for a couple of years and say, hey, you know what I'm saying, I you know, can I say, hey, no do-overs, no do-overs, I killed your husband, you know, you had 3 motherfucking kids, I'm living in this fucking bed, you know, what you gonna do about it? Can we do that? No. So somebody's gonna have to pay up, or you're gonna have to vacate. Really, I just want you to vacate. Don't even want your money. It's pretty much useless now. Mentioning past empires and how there was a totally different map in the past, Ingram, whose own brother thinks she's a monster, then complained that they want to live in a fake world, presumably talking about liberals. As Trump always says, you don't get do-overs. She declared, no do-overs, that's it. There was an argument sometime, I think it was the 1980s, there was a quote, you won, we lost, that's that. Describing the world politics. We won, you lost, that's that. That's just the way it is. Man. Ingram's racially inflammatory rhetoric has ignited a firestorm of controversy in recent months and led to advertisers dropping off a Fox News program. Recently, she's defended a violent anti-Semite. Who cares about the anti-Semite? We good. So you see, this is how they feel about you. At least she, you know, I give her props for being real. You know what I'm saying? You can take that with a grain of salt, but you know, it is what it is. You heard it. We lost. They won. Get over it. And that's how the argument is always going to be as long as we keep going down the same route. We have to make an argument that we're the heirs of this land, not just some fucking descendants of slaves. We have to realize that everybody was fucking slaves. All right, we were prisoners of war. You know what I'm saying? I believe whites were enslaved up until damn near the 1812 when some calamities screwed up that system down there, and you had all these white convicts and shit, mostly from Europe and shit, who broke loose, ran into the land, started ransacking the plantations, started raping all the indigenous women, started killing the black men, subjugating the people down there, and then they started taking over the plantations, who was probably in shambles and shit, rebuilt them, and then started enslaving the fucking indigenous people there. And I believe the Union, well, not the Union, I believe, that's just one theory. Because when it comes to all of this, until I can really find all the books and shit, they're theories. But I believe, it was switched over. And I think the Union wanted to come down there and fucking try to restore white order again. Restore the order that was there, or the Confederacy could have been doing it. That's what I'm saying. Like, everything is in reverse. The Confederacy probably more likely were the good guys in this. I think the Union was trying to fucking reinforce those whites down there doing that. And I do think there was a group of whites who were put in certain positions and stuff, to deal with the other whites in the North and shit. And I think a lot of them became the soldiers of the Confederacy, and shit was switched around. Just like, I don't want to go into the H word, but the H dude who ran Germany and fucking started World War I and II and shit, he's vilified as a villain. He's vilified for killing, all those J people over there. During World War II, which didn't really fucking happen, right? So, but we can prove that a lot of that shit is false. All right. So, what's to say that the Civil War is not the same fucking way? You dig what I'm saying? Pay attention, because I'm gonna go through this real quick. All right. This is the Black's Law Dictionary. This is the first edition. Henry Campbell Black. Well, actually, it's the second edition, but it's basically the same as the first edition. They didn't really change anything. When you start getting into like the fourth edition and shit, it starts to get a little bit different. You can see all the copyright shit. You know what I'm saying? And one thing that you have to realize too is that we're under British common law. So, yeah. They're showing you the British kings and queens and stuff, the monarchs. Mind you, this is laws that's being used in America. So we got colored. By common uses in America, this term in such phrases as colored person, the colored race, colored men, and the like is used to designate Negroes or persons of African race, including all persons of mixed blood descended from Negro ancestry. All right? Pretty straightforward. Color. Appearance, semblance, or simulacrum, as distinguished from which is real. A prima facie or apparent right, hence a deceptive appearance. A plausible assumed exterior, concealing a lack of reality. A disguise, pretext. Did you understand that? It's color in law is a disguise. It's concealing. It's a deceptive appearance. So when they call you colored by law, they saying that you're under disguise, that concealing a lack of reality. What's the reality? That we're the Aboriginals of America, right? That we are the red man, the Indians. Okay? It says in pleading, ground of action and admitted to subsets in the opposite party by the pleading one of the parties in action, which is said to be apparently valid, but which in reality is legally insufficient. So when you're considered a colored person, you come into court, you have no grounds to stand on. It's telling you this right now. All right? This was a term of the ancient rhetoric and early adopted into the language of pleading. It was an apparent or prima facie right. And the meaning of the rule that pleadings in confession and avoidance should give color was that they should confess the matter adversely alleged to such an extent, at least, as to admit some appearance right in the opposite party, which required to be encountered and avoided by the allegation of the new matter. Color was either expressed, inserted in the pleading, implied, which is naturally inherent in the structure of the pleading. The word also means the dark color of the skin, showing the presence of the Negro blood, and hence is equivalent to African descent of percentage. Okay, around this time they started just calling all colored people African. All right, it's to get you off your land. Another thing that you should see is color of law, appearance, or semblance without substance or legal right. So, again, self-explanatory. When you look at Negro, the word Negro means a black man, one descended from the African race, and does not commonly include a mulatto. All right, but the laws of different states are not uniform in this respect, including in the description of Negro, one who has 1/8 or more African blood. All right, so when they started mixing some of those Africans into here, they really had no way of keeping record of who these people were, so they just deemed all black people could possibly be, African, therefore Negro, saying that somebody probably mixed with an African. You know what I'm saying? So, that's why that 1/8 was in here and shit. It wasn't, for them octoroons and shit. This is interesting too, alright? According to law, a Moor is an officer of the Isle of Man, which is a kingdom in the United Kingdom, UK, alright? Under the Union Jack. The courts for the civil shreddings, alright? The office is similar to the English bailiff of 100. So, when Moors come into court and they declare themselves a Moor, they're telling, remember we're under British common law, all right? They're telling them that they're officer of that of that system. Therefore, they're not under the jurisdiction of the Americans. All right, that's all that Moor means in law. We know Mora and Moor are the same. Mora, means black in Latin. In civil law, it means delay, default, neglect, culpable delay, or default. All right. Most Hispanics are considered mestizos. All right, but they tell you mestizos is a mix of white and Indian. All right. But according to our law here in America, the mestizo is a name given to the issue of an Indian and a Negro. All right. So some of these terms and stuff overlap each other. Because if you have Negro blood, then you're just a Negro. I guess unless you're mixed with Indian, then you're a mestizo. So wouldn't that make some of these Negroes mestizos? You know what I'm saying? It's just weird. We're considered minorities, right? So according to law, according to all the politicians and shit, it has nothing to do with numbers, all right? Well, when it comes to vote, yeah, that's the only time. Like your majority leader, your senate leader, or whatever, depending on what party is involved, all right? But really, in law, it's the state or condition of a minor, infancy, and the smaller number of votes of a deliberative assembly opposed to the majority. So what is a minor according to law? Very interesting shit. An infant or a person who is under the age of legal competence, a term derived from civil law which is described as a person under a certain age less than so many years. Minor vigilante, Kinke, Anis, 1 year less than 25 years old. Alright? Let's continue. Also less consideration, a lower person of inferior condition. So when we call ourselves minorities, we call ourselves people with inferior condition. Minor setus, Latin, minority or infancy, clearly lesser age. In the law of evidence, a relative, collateral, or subordinate fact. It's basically saying subordinate. Minor ante tempus, agrere, non potest, and osu, proprietaris, nec idem, convenire, differtor, usque, estatum sed non cadit breve. A minor before majority cannot act in the case of properly nor even agree it should be deferred until majority. All right. So until you declare yourself as a major, you have no standing. Let's go with minor jure non potest. A minor cannot make an oath. An infant cannot be sworn on a jury. So, you know what I'm saying? They don't tell you this when you go into court, though. Let's go with minor minorum custodiere non debet alios enum prosumitor mal regere qui sepsum regare nasi. A minor ought not be guardian to a minor, for he is who knows not how to govern himself, is presumed to be unfit to govern others. This is where we fall under. As minorities, we're not to be given custodianship of ourselves. We do not know how to govern ourselves and is presumed to be unfit to govern others. All right. So this is why minorities have no standing in court. We continue with minor non-tenure, respondende, durante, minori, estate, nasi, in causa dotis, propter ferritum. A minor is not bound to reply during his minority except as a matter of favor in the course of a doubt. This is why you have to have a lawyer, because your lawyer acts as your custodian. He acts as your major, all right? But he also works for the majority. You understand how that works? So you can't be your own, you can't defend yourself in court unless you declare yourself a major, all right? Minor key infra estatum, 12 anarum, fuit, otsageri, non podes, nec extra legum pony, kia ante, talum estatum, non es su le alquia, net in decina. A minor who is under 12 years of age cannot be outlawed nor placed without law, because before such age he is not under any law nor in a decennary. All right. Again, it means that you're not in you're too young, too stupid, to represent yourself. All right. Minor septem decene annis non admittator fore executorum. A person under 17 years is not admitted to be an executor. All right, rule of classical law. Let's continue. Majority. All right, full age, the age at which by law a person is entitled to the management of his own affairs and the enjoyment of civic rights. The opposite of minority, also status of a person who is a major in age. So white people are the majority. They get to enjoy their civil rights. They get to manage their own affairs, and they have the pursuit. They able to have the pursuit of happiness, basically. All right. In the law of elections, majority signifies the greater number of votes when there are only two candidates. All right. So again, the opposite of majority, minority. So we're gonna look at major down here at the bottom. A person of full age, one who is no longer a minor, one who is attained the management of his own concerns and the enjoyment of his civil rights. All right. Now, MAJ comes from MEG or MEJ. All right. And anything with MAJ in it basically is the same word. So you got major, you got majestus, and you got majesty. All right. They all different ways of saying a major or majority. Majestus is Latin. Remember, Latin is the language of law. All right. In Roman law, the majesty, sovereign authority, or supreme prerogative of a state or a prince. Also a shorter form of the expression crimen majestis or crimen laque majestis. An offense against sovereignty or against the safety or organic life of the Roman people. High treason. All right. And majesty is royal dignity. So you see where all this goes, right? And we go to right here to the etymology, right? And major, great, more important, or effective, leading principle from Latin major, irregular, comparative of magnus, large, great. Pi rule, remember this MEG, mag, great, all right? Remember that pi word. From 1590s, used in quantity, number, or extent, used in music since 1690s, okay, means greater than. Majesty, all right? 1300s, magistrate, greatness, grandeur, exalted rank, captain, imposed in loftiness, stateliness, qualities appropriate to rulership, from both French, majesty, grandeur, nobility, from Latin, majestatum, greatness, dignity, elevation, honor, excellence. But you see down the bottom, it says that MEG again, great, right? So they all mean the same fucking thing. Just put that in the back of your head.